Western Australia. When most people head north out of Perth, they head up the coast via Geraldton, Carnarvon, etc., or they go up through the Great Northern Highway. But there is another way north not too many people know about. Normally when I go away, I take the caravan, but on this trip, this is going to be my accommodation. This is going to be interesting. So if you're looking for a holiday that's a little bit different away from the crowds, this might be right up your alley. So while I run the intro, go down and hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it, and that'll let you know when I've uploaded another video. On this trip we're going to be heading up through the Murchison and Gascoyne regions of Western Australia. These areas are bigger than some countries in Europe. I thought I'd give you a bit of an idea about some of the stories that involve up here, and they revolve around the pastoralist, mining and an Australian flying hero. But first we've got to travel 500 kilometres north of Perth.
I'll be moving along, singing my song, running around, ain't nothing wrong. I live long day. I said, I live long day. Baby got her shoes on, she wants to move. Yes. Looking for trouble, honey, is it you? Feel the world under her feet, all the cracks up in the concrete. Take a step back, she's coming through. Looking shady, she's on the run. Maybe, just maybe she'll find the sun. I feel that sweet Indian summer. Feel the heat. Gotta feel the heat. How did we do it? Sorry. I'll live long day. I'll live long day. I'll be moving along, singing my song, running around, ain't nothing wrong. I live long day.
On this trip, I'm glad to say, I've got a few extra people to travel with me, so let's go and meet them. And of course, in my car, the Nissan Navara, my wife Deb. And in the second car, this one is a Kia Cerato four-wheel drive. We've got Blenda, who's doing my photography, Jacinta, who is her first time camping, so that'll be interesting, and Melanie, who is my videographer, she's looking after that. And then over here we've got Nathan here in a brand new, about what, 3 months old?
About 3 months old, yeah.
What is it, Mitsubishi Outlander, all-wheel drive. So we'll do a bit of a review on that as well and see how that goes. Well, we don't really have anything special in the way of four-wheel drives, not that we're really going anywhere that's going to be of any great issue, but we'll see how they go. So regardless of what you're driving, you have to be self-sufficient. Fuel, water, spare parts are pretty few and far between. If you break down out here, you could be out here for quite a long time before somebody else comes along. So we're now about 500 kilometres north of Perth, and so far we've all been travelling on the blacktop, but from here on in we start on the gravel. We've got about 1,000 kilometres of gravel to do over the next about 5 days. So as you travel along out here, you'll see signs that say four-wheel drive only. From my research for preparing this trip, it appears mostly related about when the roads are wet and muddy. Some of the tracks that will go off onto the side might get a little bit boggy, but at this time of the year, sort of SUV, high clearance SUV type vehicles, shouldn't be a problem, but that's one of the things we're going to be finding out on this trip. If you're considering doing this trip, here's some things to keep in mind. There are very few facilities, and that includes fuel. You're in the Outback now. There are some options, but you need to be able to carry enough supplies to keep you going for several days, depending on how long you're planning on taking to do your trip. When you look around at the wide open spaces, you can't help but ask yourself, why would anyone in their right mind consider walking out here to explore the area? Well, in 1858, that's exactly what Francis Gregory did. He travelled with an Aboriginal guide from roughly where Carnarvon is located today and travelled inland following the Gascoyne River. Now, Gregory named the Kennedy Ranges and also Mount Augustus. Mount Augustus he named after his brother. And they're two of the places that we're going to be visiting on this trip. Francis noted in his journal that the area had potential for gold, but at the time, pretty much it was all ignored. When you think of gold mining in WA, you think of the Kalgoorlie area, which had hopeful miners out there in the 1890s. But not too many people know that WA's first gold strike was in fact around Halls Creek in the Kimberleys in 1885. Not that it lasted all that long. It wasn't until 1887 when some pastoralists who were digging some wells for water found some gold and started some interest. Then in 1892, a fellow named Mick Burke found a big pile of gold out near Kew, and that really kicked things off. Gold strikes were found in Sandstone in 1895, Meekatharra in 1896 and Paynes Find in 1911. The region was thriving with people and activity. Although the mining of the past died off and the people have moved away again, today multi-million-dollar mines are still operating throughout this area. If only the men of yesteryear knew what they were walking past. When the first explorers came out into this area, there were no roads. They used the tracks made by the original inhabitants, the Aborigines. Over time, the pastoralists came out and brought their sheep with them, and those tracks turned into bigger tracks, and eventually those stock routes and mining tracks all became the roads that we're travelling on today. So where is this other road north? As I said, it's not exactly for the unprepared traveller. We left Perth using the Great Northern Highway till we got to Woburn. Then we continued north on the Mullewa-Woburn Road to Mullewa. Then it's still north from there on the gravel roads towards Carnarvon and ultimately Exmouth. More and more people are using this road as an alternative way to travel north to get away from the crowds on the main roads. In Mullewa they have two self-driving trails starting from town, one to the north and one to the south, covering a number of interesting features of the area. During the wildflower season, these roads could be quite busy. Both are around 145 kilometres in length. The first pathway we'll be taking is the Woolwagon Pathway. While this starts in Pindar, we'll be starting in Mullewa. We'll go through Murchison settlement to Gascoyne Junction. The Woolwagon Pathway will continue north to Exmouth, but we'll leave this pathway after Gascoyne Junction. This is Pindar. In its heyday, it was the crossroads from the rower line coming out from Gelton and heading out to the east, to the goldfields, and the Woolwagon Pathway, which started here went up through the Murchison and out to Exmouth. In 1978 the railway line closed down, and after that pretty much so did the town.
As we start heading north, there are a number of little places where you can stop and have a look at. Some you can camp at and some you can't. None have any facilities.
While it doesn't look like much now, the Murchison River is actually the second largest river in Western Australia. It starts out there north of Meekatharra and runs for about 820 kilometres out to the coast, comes out at Kalbarri. It's 82,000 square kilometres of catchment area out there, which is basically bigger than Tasmania. It gets most of its water from the ex-tropical cyclones that come down after the cyclone season in the north and floods down through here. So you can see by the sign how high the water can get. All this out here, it's all turns into floodplain. And when it does, people out here can be cut off from the world for weeks. This is what's left of the Ballinyoo Bridge, which was built in 1929. When it was constructed, it was the second largest concrete bridge to be built in Western Australia. A few years ago, they removed this bridge and built a new bridge, which is in place today. Out here, there's huge cattle stations. They've been here for a really long time, and while some of them run cattle and some sheep, one of them is doing things just a little bit different. This one's called Wooleen Station. It used to run cattle and sheep many years ago, and probably about 10 or so years ago they destocked the entire station and started working on changing it back to being in its original condition again, because the stock were just eating out all the food. And these days it's an eco station. You can go in there, you can stay there. They do tours around the place. They've got wildflower tours during the right time of the year as well. You can stay there. They've got different types of accommodation. You can stay in the main house. They cook the meals for you. I've been out there a couple of times actually on my job, and absolutely brilliant. One year actually they got me to stay in the woodshed. I was a bit worried about that, because I thought, I'm not really staying in any woodshed. I tell you what, it's the best place you could ever stay. It was brilliant. Had nice comfortable bed in there, and they had your own bathroom in there, and TV I think was in there as well from memory. So all the comforts you needed. Absolutely brilliant place. So that's Wooleen Station. Look it up on the internet if you want to go out there.
Out here, water is everything. Without it, nothing can survive. This is just one of hundreds of wells that were sunk throughout the region. This well has been restored as a monument to the many drovers and stockmen driving their chargers through this rugged land.
That's not going to work too well.
Well, as we enter the Murchison settlement, we come to the end of this day and this episode. Join us next time when we have a look around the caravan park here before we continue north and check out an amazing waterhole. We look for seashells before we arrive at the amazing Kennedy Ranges. So if you like what you saw, then hit the thumbs up and click the subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. These trips are completely self-funded, so if you'd like to contribute to the production of these videos, there's a link to my Patreon page in the description. As they say, you can buy me a cup of coffee to help me fund the channel. So till next time, happy travels!